Salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio by Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Robert Meyer-Burnett. Good to be. And most importantly, of course, you guys are here. Thank you for joining us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all that good stuff. And we're awfully glad that you are one of the fans right along with us. All right, guys, listen, we've got a number of things to talk about here today before I go and take... Oh, you are too. We're both taking off to go see Toy Story.
Yes, we are.
A little bit later, which I am dying to see. I will put my out-of-theater reaction up a little bit later today after I go to see it, but I'm very, very excited about it. But we're excited about a lot of stuff. So we got some news to talk about here. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it here today, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. I'm a sucker for heist movies. If you followed me for any period of time, you know I'm a sucker for heist movies. And right up there amongst the movies that I appreciate in that genre, of course, the Ocean's movies. I really quite like them.
They're fantastic.
I even liked the Sandra Bullock one that they did.
Ocean's
She's
8.
his sister.
Yeah, I didn't think it was fantastic, but I actually quite enjoyed it. I appreciated it. So anyway, then there became talk that they were going to do a prequel to the Ocean's 11 movies that were going to be about his parents. Didn't love the idea. Then they announced Margot Robbie was going to star as one of them. I like that. Still didn't love the idea. Then came the big news that Bradley Cooper was going to play the dad and direct the film. Bradley Cooper's an amazing director. Like that a lot. Still don't love the idea of the movie. I'm starting to warm up a little bit, though, as the Hollywood Reporter today has dropped that Ocean's 11 prequel Wagner Moura, of course, from The Secret Agent, who got all types of awards love this year for Secret Agent. And I'm still floored by him playing Pablo Escobar in Narcos. That was one of those performances where, you know, every once in a while you got a performance of somebody where it's like, it's the first time you've seen them and you're like, who the hell is this guy?
Hell yeah.
That was it for me with him. Well, apparently he is now in final negotiations to play the villain of the Ocean's prequel. The folks over at the Hollywood Reporter had this to say. They said, Warner Brothers has found its villain for the Ocean's 11 prequel. Wagner Moura, who earned numerous platitudes for his starring work in 2025's The Secret Agent, is in negotiations to join Margot Robbie and Bradley Cooper in Warner Brothers Pictures' untitled Ocean's 11 prequel. Cooper is directing on top of starring and producing. Margot Robbie is also starring and producing via her Lucky Chap banner. The company's Tom Acklery is also producing. The feature is expected to begin shooting in late July in Paris before moving to the south of France. So it's going to start shooting here next month, which is great. And then, of course, Bradley Cooper is busy because then apparently he's going to be starring in a Sean Penn movie next about the January 6th insurrection. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see too. Bradley Cooper keeping himself busy. All right. This is one of those situations, you know, when he's like, you want to go to this place for dinner? I don't know. It doesn't look very good to me. Oh, but they've got this on the menu. All right, that sounds good. I'm still not sure if I want to go to that restaurant, but it's also got this on the menu. And you're like, yeah, I like that. And then it's also got, and at some point you've got to say, okay, there's enough really good looking stuff on the menu that now I really do want to go to this place. That's kind of the cumulative effect we're getting here with this Ocean's 11 prequel. Look, for those who've watched me for any period of time, you know I don't generally love the idea of anything with prequels. There have obviously been exceptions that have turned out great. But just in general, I kind of bristle at first at the idea of a prequel. I don't know how many people out there are actually clamoring for another actual Ocean's 11 movie, let alone for a prequel of the Ocean's 11. Still, you had Margot Robbie. Okay. You had Bradley Cooper and Bradley Cooper directing. Okay. And now you had Moura as the villain. We might be at the point, Rob, now where I've got to go, okay, I'm just going to have to get over my apprehensions about it. This is actually starting to look like, take the Ocean's 11 part out of it. A heist movie set in the 1960s in France with, like, again, take Ocean's 11 out of it. Heist movie, 1960s France with Bradley Cooper, Margot Robbie, and Moura as the villain. Would I not be excited about the prospects of that? Yes, I would be. So I'm starting to warm up to this Ocean's 11 prequel idea. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this. What's standing out to you?
Oh, they had me at hello with this because, I'm a huge fan. Like you said, the heist genre. First of all, I have to say that Ocean's 11 is, of course, a remake from the Rat Pack version that George Clayton Johnson co-wrote. Ocean's 11 might be one of the great rewatchable movies of all time. It doesn't matter where you come into that movie. It passes the HBO test every time. I mean, we don't have that anymore. You're flipping channels. You go to HBO and it's just playing there and you have to watch it. And I miss those days. But that movie is so rewatchable. I love it. It's like The Social Network and The Big Short. I can always watch those movies. The other two, Ocean's 12 was okay. I liked Ocean's 13 kind of in the middle. But I liked Ocean's 8. I just like seeing movie stars playing thieves, getting together and pulling a heist because they feel there's something old-fashioned and yet at the same time modern because Soderbergh knocked it out of the park with Ocean's 11 and the score for it. The music score is so great. So to see, I mean, they have to call this movie Ocean's 2. Right? Because it's about his parents.
I haven't even thought about it, but that's a good title, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so, so you've got the 60s. I mean, I think back to, there's so many great heist movies from, like Rafifi, which is one of the most great heist movies of all time, and I can never pronounce it, Tokapi. I love 60s heist movies. To Catch a Thief, Hitchcock, I think it was 50s. But still, you're in like the south of France or whatever.
Wasn't the original Italian Job? Was that 60s or early 70s?
Yeah, that was 60s. I mean, there's nothing better than going to Europe to steal shit. I mean, I love Hudson Hawk. They're trying to rip
nobody
off.
loves Hudson Hawk.
I know.
Nobody else likes
They're
Hudson
trying to
Hawk.
rip off
Would
the
you like
Vatican.
to
I mean,
swing
swinging on a star. I mean, I can't wait to see this movie. I don't care what anyone says. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and again, the addition of Moura here, I could sit here and talk all day about his performance in Narcos. Like, really, like all due respect to all the big names in there, including at that point, slightly lesser known Pedro Pascal. I mean, this guy just made that series.
Oh.
And he's just so good, and he fits the type for an Ocean's bad guy.
Yeah, and the Ocean's bad guys are good.
Yeah.
Andy Garcia was great. Al Pacino was great. I mean, bring it on, man.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? It looks like this Ocean's prequel starts shooting next month. Bradley Cooper, Margot Robbie, but now they're adding Wagner Moura in it. Like they've worn me down. I'm now kind of interested in seeing this film. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is now right around the corner. I mean, we are rapidly approaching its release. I can't wait to see this thing. I think the movie world is in high anticipation for this thing. But something really interesting happened. They dropped another kind of behind the scenes thing of it today. And I've been talking on this show for the past week or two about that. I think it was 60 Minutes special they did on it, showing how Christopher Nolan was utilizing 70 millimeter IMAX, the first Hollywood feature film ever shot entirely in IMAX. All the pain in the ass stuff they had to go through to actually shoot with this camera, and how it had to literally be lugged everywhere they went to try to shoot, and how they literally had this guy sitting in this old school film room, literally snip cutting film and then taping it together to do the edits. Like this it blew my mind and made me go, my God, I can't wait to see this thing. Well, they did it again today with this new thing, this new behind the scenes. This is one of the wild shots from it. First, it shows Robert Pattinson going, look, when you're making a movie, base camp is 10 yards away from where you're shooting. And then they bring up this. They're like, this was base camp was a 45-minute hike
I even got fit
to the top of this mountain, and you could see the winding roads going all through there.
It's
They
like
had to go up.
going up to the Rohirrim's camp.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like all this stuff. And they're just talking about how everything in this thing was just like pure practical sets. Like you see, like they literally had to string ropes you could hold to walk to where they're shooting the damn movie. And they talked about all these, that they actually found this literal cave. There's a scene where it's a cave. It's not just the outside of the cave. And then they go to a sound stage to shoot the interior. They actually shot it in this cave. And they're like, no one has ever shot in this cave before. And they like everything about it. They said, we do it so it actually feels authentic to the audience. And like the one actor was saying, when they see me on a boat in the ocean, it's believable because I'm on a boat in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like shooting this thing. And I'm watching this and it's like, there's two delightful testicles that this massages for me. On the one testicle, it's like the movie itself just looks amazing. And then the gentle cupping of the other testicle is, from a filmmaking perspective, I cannot wait to see how this thing gets put together on the big screen. And like, I'm watching these and I thought to myself, you know how we always say on this show that the job of a trailer is to take your anticipation level for a movie, whether it's high or low, and bump it up a little bit. That's the job of a trailer. And I'm watching these behind the scenes videos that they keep putting out for this. And I'm just thinking to myself, these things are doing a better job than most trailers do for their movies in taking my anticipation level and ramping it up. Watching how Christopher Nolan as an artist is crafting these movies just makes me salivate to want to see the end result on the big screen. So I love this stuff. Rob, you had a chance to take a look at this new behind the scenes thing. What stood out to you about it?
Well, to continue with your analogy, the shaft of verisimilitude that they have achieved with this is, I think, astonishing. You know, John, it reminded me when I was doing the behind the scenes on Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. A lot of that movie was shot on location on both the North and South Island of New Zealand. And we were at a place called like Elephant Rocks, which, like you might think of, has giant rocks that look like elephants. And then we were up at Flock Hill, which is, we had to take an hour drive every morning up from Christchurch up into the mountains where they shot the big battle at the end. And there's nothing that, you can't duplicate that with visual effects, and you can't duplicate it with sound stages. And Christopher Nolan, look, he's the master of verisimilitude. That's what his whole career has been built on that. You know, even when he's using visual effects, he's using giant models and things like that. I mean, yeah, he uses CGI, but he does everything he can in camera to create that feeling of reality. And you can't, I mean, I love the fact that this shot you have up, Jonathan, how it's got that collapsing building. It kind of echoes, there's a shot in Tenet that has an exploding building.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, and you just look at this stuff, and even when we've seen the opening of the Trojan horse being dragged in off the beach. I mean, it's real. I mean, you're looking at it going, they really did bring that horse out there. And now the horse is traveling around the country, I think. They're bringing it to different places and putting it up.
How are they managing to do that?
No, I think it was at Venice Beach last week or something.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
You know, and I love we live in a world that people are still doing that. And that Christopher Nolan, you know, and that part of the thing he's also doing is that film itself, he shoots on film because it has that, even though you get grain and it feels real. It has that more of a realistic, I love it.
Well, it's also on the 70 millimeter film, the resolution is off the scale. I mean, look, I get it that there are some artists who still want to film on film. It's completely unnecessary. I mean, I think there's a nostalgia. This is the way they used to do it. I honestly, I think it's just to be a pompous artist because there's no reason not to shoot digitally. And yet I watched this stuff of how Nolan is like going to the wall with all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I want to see how this turns out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Have you had a chance to see some of this behind the scenes stuff that they've been putting out for the
cool.
Odyssey? I cannot highly recommend that 60 Minutes piece enough, or this one that you can find on Gizmodo and also going around. You had something to add?
Well, I was going to add, these trailers, because there's testimony from both the filmmakers and the actors, don't you feel a sense of camaraderie? Like, I'm watching this going, I want these people to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. You get a sense of the people who made these great images at the same time you're seeing these things, and it's different than just a trailer. You feel like I got to jump in for the big win with these guys and girls.
And somebody else pointing out, Sinners was shot on film. Apparently, it wasn't shot on IMAX 70 millimeter film with a camera the size of your car. I mean, well, it's much smaller now, but that's much more difficult to move around. And I'm just really, really curious to see what the end results are. Anyway, guys, whatever you think about all this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. As I look through the live chat, I'm seeing a bunch of people who've got some hot takes. Well, time for us to put your hot takes on trial with a little segment that we call Overreaction. The way Overreaction works is really simple. I jumped on the YouTube channel a little bit earlier today, and I asked you guys to submit some of your hottest of hot takes. We've gathered together a few of them, and now Rob and I are going to adjudicate whether your hot take is an overreaction or not. Jonathan's got a bunch of them gathered up there. So, Jonathan, what we got up first?
Beginning with one Robert Meyer Burnett.
Uh-oh.
Is this an overreaction? When we hear from Josh, Toy Story 5 will be the #1 film at the box office on Supergirl's opening weekend.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh.
The disrespect.
I think it will be. I don't think that's an overreaction. I really don't. I don't think that Supergirl's going to tank, but I think look, if Toy Story makes as much as it makes, and I think it's going to make more than 150 million, and Supergirl opens to say 75 million, Toy Story could still beat it at the box office second weekend.
Yeah, look, no, this isn't an overreaction because almost any movie this isn't a negative thing on Supergirl. Almost any movie that's opening on Toy Story second week is going to finish under Toy Story, because to Rob's point, Toy Story is probably going to make 150 to 160 million dollars. Let's say 160, could be more than 160, but let's say 160 million. I think it's fair to say it's going to take a 50% drop in its second week. That means Toy Story on its second weekend is going to make $80 million.
Right.
Yeah.
That is far more than 95% of movies ever open with. I don't expect Supergirl to open at $80 million. Like, if you guys watch, I'm much more realistic. I think Supergirl opens around $55, $65 million. And I still think it will. But Toy Story is Toy Story. And it's going to open to about 160. And it's going to have about a 50% drop, which means an $80 million second weekend. So again, that is no shade on Supergirl. You put almost any movie on Toy Story second weekend, it's going to finish second to Toy Story, just because not because the number of Supergirl is going to be small, but because the number of Toy Story, even on its second week, is going to be so big. So yeah, saying that Toy Story is going to be the #1 movie on its second weekend is absolutely not an overreaction. All right, what's next?
Back over to you, John. Is this an overreaction? From H. Stevens. The next James Bond film will be, if great, another $1 billion film.
Not an overreaction. I think right now the interest level in James Bond right now is really high. I mean, it's been a number of years since our last one. They were moving on to the next James Bond. That's, if you go back historically, that's always a big peak of interest. I think if it's good, at which you stipulated in the question, yeah, we could be looking at another Casino Royale situation, and with the backing of Amazon and all that kind of stuff, and with arguably the greatest director in the world right now, certainly one of the greatest directors in the world right now, with Denis Villeneuve directing it. Yeah, if it's as great as it could be, it absolutely could be the next $1 billion film. Anyway, Rob, what do you think?
I totally agree with you. And I think the new James Bond movie is going to have something that James Bond has never had before. And that is an auteurist vision behind the camera. You always had the Broccoli family, Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, up until now, controlled the franchise. The closest you ever came to having an auteurist director was maybe Sam Mendes, doing Spectre, Skyfall, and Spectre. But they always held it was a producer's franchise where they controlled creatively.
Yeah.
This is the first time that Bond is being taken off a leash, and Denis Villeneuve can make absolutely the movie that he can make, and he can change things around. I hope they keep the theme, and I hope they keep the opening format.
There's
no chance they don't keep the James Bond.
Denny would not even stand for that.
I know.
No way.
But the only thing I ask for is the theme, the 007 logo, and I love the James Bond opening sequences. And I think Denis Villeneuve will give us an incredible opening sequence.
Side note, one of the more interesting episodes of Pawn Stars I ever saw was the actual guitar player, this old English guy who actually did the James Bond theme. Boom, 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 went into the pawn shop to sell his guitar that he recorded the James Bond theme on.
Yeah.
I always thought that was really fascinating. Anyway, all right, what's next?
All right, Rob, is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Akshat Yadav. I'm so sorry about that, but I butchered it. The Odyssey will shatter the opening weekend record of Deadpool and Wolverine for the highest opening weekend earning for a R-rated movie.
I'm sorry to say, I think that's an overreaction. As much as I'm really excited about the Odyssey, Deadpool and Wolverine had a much more fervent screaming. Are those fans bigger than the Nolan fanboys? I think they are. I think Deadpool and Wolverine just had more years of anticipation behind it. That's not to say the Odyssey isn't going to do well, but I think it's an overreaction to say it's going to shatter the opening of Deadpool and Wolverine, because Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't have the numbers in front of me, was pretty damn big.
I think it was 1.3. I want to say. Go ahead.
But no, but he's talking about opening.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
He's talking about the opening. That's a massive overreaction. It is a massive overreaction. Deadpool and Wolverine opened to like 211. Yeah, $211 million on its opening weekend. Oppenheimer, which almost became $1 billion film, opened to 82 million.
And this, everyone's going to see in IMAX, which means they have limited screens with which most of the audience is going to go.
And that's the thing. And unlike, say, something like comic book movies, which everybody feels this need to rush out and see right away, movies like Oppenheimer, movies like Odyssey, everybody's planning on seeing it. Like, for example, I do believe it's possible that the Odyssey makes more money overall than Deadpool and Wolverine, but it's not going to be as front end heavy. Like Christopher Nolan has never had a film that's opened over 200 million. As a matter of fact, I just opened it up here. The biggest opening he's ever had was The Dark Knight Rises, and that was 160 million. Again, Oppenheimer, 82 million. So no, I think it is a massive overreaction to think that Oppenheimer will have a bigger opening weekend than Deadpool and Wolverine.
Or Odyssey.
I keep saying Oppenheimer. That Odyssey, I think that is a massive overreaction.
There's a storm coming, Mr. Campea.
All right,
what's
now we're
next?
over to you, John, again here. Let's see, it was number 3. No, it was number 4. Wildcat Purple. Disclosure Day is a huge disappointment. Is that an overreaction?
I'm going to call that an overreaction. Was it as good as I was hoping it would be? No. Did I love it? No. But here's the thing about, for me at least, with Disclosure Day. I thought the first 2 acts were fantastic. Like an hour 15 minutes into the movie, hour 20 minutes into the movie, I was loving it. I thought the mystery was great. Aspects of it was great. I thought the chase thriller aspects of it were great. I love these little things. I love how the movie opens. Like, I love that the movie opens in what a lot of filmmakers would have been the beginning of their act 2. And I just love that it just dove right in, like no filler, all thriller.
I told you reminded me so much of the opening of Highlander.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But unfortunately for me, it spun out of control in the third act. And to me, it created a lot of logic problems. And parts of it felt very rushed in the third act. And I walked out not loving the film. I still think overall I like it because I like the first 2 acts so much. But to call it a huge disappointment, I think that's exaggerating it a little bit too much. And there's a lot of people who really do like the film. So I'm going to say calling it a huge disappointment, an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I agree too. I mean, I was personally disappointed in the film, but you have to ask yourself. I mean, it was made for $115 million apparently, and it's doing quite well at the box office. It opened at #1. Its midweek numbers have gone up, so it's doing well. And I would say, is it as satisfying as my favorite Steven Spielberg movies? Certainly not.
No.
And I do feel it was a little half baked and a little lost in time, a little bit, but. I mean, you can't call it a disappointment. I mean, I can. For me personally, it was. But I think overall, you have to ask yourself, is it making money for Universal?
All right. What's next?
All right, Rob, we're going to stick with you here. Is this an overreaction? When we hear from Batman, the Cape Crusader, Starfighter needs to be great to revive the Star Wars brand.
I don't think that's an overreaction. I think Starfighter has to be great. I think it has to make it needs to reignite the excitement for Star Wars in the theater. I think it's as simple as that. And I don't think that and by the way, it has to ignite my excitement. That's what I want. And I want it to do that. I figure if I'm excited by it, the rest of the world probably will be too. Because when it comes to Star Wars, I'm a pretty easy lay.
Yeah, I can't say this is an overreaction. I can't say it's an overreaction at all. Look, I've been on record before Mandalorian and Grogu came out. I said, you should just shelf Mandalorian and Grogu till later and make Starfighter the first Star Wars film back in theaters. Because Mandalorian and Grogu ain't it. It's just the continuation of a television series that not everybody watched. And it's going to probably end up being the lowest. It was the lowest opening of any Disney era Star Wars film. And it's probably going to go on to become the lowest grossing of any Disney era Star film, like even lower than Solo, a Star Wars story. And it wasn't very good. And here's the problem. The fires of Star Wars passion burns bright. But with each passing month and each passing underwhelming Star Wars project, we as a Star Wars fan base, not by choice, are being embraced by apathy. And every time they put out something that is less than memorable, like Mandalorian and Grogu, it increases that apathy. Starfighter has to be good. It has. I would dare say, I'm going to put it in the same category as Superman. You know, I said, like, the DCEU so destroyed the reputation of DC that when they were coming out with Superman, I said for a year, it doesn't matter if it makes money, loses money. None of that matters. All that matters is that it is well received. It has to, because if it's not, there's no future. Whether it makes money or not, it doesn't matter. If it's great and the critics and the audiences love it, which they did, then there's a possible future. If they don't, there's no future. And I feel like while we're not at the edge of the cliff yet, I feel like we're getting dangerously close to it. That I don't know how many more outs you have at the plate. Starfighter has to be great. It doesn't have to be the best Star Wars movie ever made. It doesn't have to be, better than Andor. But it's got to be great to reignite the fires in at least the core fandom again. Because if it's not, if we come off things like, granted, there was Andor, but all surrounding Andor is the Book of Boba Fett and the crappy Ahsoka and the really crappy Acolyte and now Mandalorian and Grogu. And if now we have to wait another year for another Star Wars film and that ends up being Starfighter and it's a turd, and I don't think it will be, I think it's going to be great. But if it is a turd, I think the unimaginable becomes a possibility that Disney's got to look at just selling the IP. So I'm going to say it is not an overreaction to say Starfighter's got to be great. All right, what's next?
All right, we have our final one here. John, is this an overreaction from Tom Waterloo? Dune 3 will sweep at the Oscars just like Return of the King did.
It's no secret Dune 3 is my most anticipated film of the year. And it easily won CinemaCon. That footage, they showed us the opening 7-8 minutes of Dune 3, and everybody in that place was agog and aghast.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody breathed for 7 to 8 minutes because you're like, Like the intensity of what was on that screen is one of the most insane things I've ever seen.
I had anxiety for the rest of the day.
Oh my God. Like it was just intense. Like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, child's play. Like compared to what we saw in this fictionalized thing, it was insane. That being said, I think it is an overreaction to think Dune is going to sweep the Oscars the way Lord of the Rings did. I don't think we are ever going to see that again. I don't think we are ever going to see any movie ever nominated for 10 or more awards. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King was nominated for 11, and then sweep every single one of them. I don't think that will ever happen again in history. I certainly don't think it's going to happen with Dune 3, not because I don't think Dune 3 is going to be great. Oh, but we've got this little movie called Project Hail Mary, which is still, to me, the best film of the year. We've got this Odyssey film coming out. We've got about 5 or 6 other huge award circle films that people are saying, like, these are going to be big runner. It's just not that kind of a year. So while I think Dune is going to be amazing, I think it's going to be a big Oscar contender. It's going to sweep like Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I'm going to say that's an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I think it's an overreaction too. Also because, Dune 3 is a very different animal than Return of the King was. It's just a different kind of an experience. So I don't think it's the kind of experience that the Academy necessarily votes for as a sweep. That said, Dune's going to win some major technical awards. We might see some acting awards. It'll still probably do quite well at the Academy Awards, but it's not going to sweep like Return of the King. It just isn't. It's not that kind of movie.
It's funny too, when I think back to that Return of the King, winning 11 Academy Awards, none of them were acting. None of them were acting. It was cinematography, it was directing, it was writing, it was music, it was best picture, it was costume, it was all, but it was not nominated for any of the acting awards.
Because all the acting sucked.
Because clearly, clearly the acting was pretty subpar. But I mean, I think Dune will get some acting nominated. Certainly Timothée Chalamet is probably going to get nominated, and we'll see if Zendaya or anybody else does in that thing. But like 11 nominations and then sweeping.
Yeah.
Dude, I that just seems like way too tall of an order.
Hey man, if they release a 12-inch single of that Warhawk, it's got an opportunity to maybe win Best Song.
All right, guys. That will wrap up today's installment of Overreaction. Thank you so much to all you guys who sent in your hot takes for us to use on the show. Keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel's community tab for the next time we put out a call for submissions for your hot takes. And maybe you'll see your hot take get adjudicated by us here on Overreaction. All right, guys. With that down, we still got a number of other things to talk about, including Spider-Man just had the biggest one-day pre-sale of tickets in the last 5 years and is being projected to be one of the biggest opening weekends of all time. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Hims. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Hims. One of the hardest things about trying to lose weight is just figuring out what actually works. Because we've seen them all. There are a million trends, diets, and gimmicks out there. And honestly, it can get overwhelming. And that's why Weight Loss by Hims really stands out. Hims now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill at its lowest price ever and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever and only GLP-1 available in a pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. And the process is extremely convenient. Everything happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who determines if treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medication gets delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/Campea to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/Campea. hims.com/Campea. Based on advertised cash price for 30-day supply of medication only. Membership required, fee not included, and billed separately. Weight loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit hims.com. And thank you to our friends at Hims for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, we were going to discuss in this next topic the first critic reactions to Supergirl, which apparently today the social media embargo for those critics is lifting, and it was supposed to lift 35 minutes ago. I am still not seeing them pop up online yet. So I had expected that they would be out by now and we would talk about it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move on to our Spider-Man topic, and then we'll double check again to see if the reactions have popped up online yet. If not, we'll have to save that for tomorrow. So let's move on to this. Well, of course, yesterday, the tickets for Spider-Man Brand New Day went on sale. And yesterday, we talked about the fact that when I went and booked my things for the advanced fan screening stuff that are happening all over the country, they sold out everything in the first 10 minutes. At least all the theaters right around me were gone. I logged in the second they went on sale, and a third of the seats were gone already. I booked it, went to the bathroom, came back, refreshed, all tickets sold. It was crazy. Then we started to see a lot of the seats were filling up for the regular screenings as well, all over the place. So we knew the movie was big. Well, now, according to this report in Deadline, Spider-Man Brand New Day snares the best first day U.S. pre-sales in the last 5 years and overall for this year. You know what the last one that had a bigger opening day ticket sales were? Spider-Man No Way Home was the last one that did it. Deadline goes on to write this. Sony and Marvel Studios' Spider-Man Brand New Day is bringing some kapow and boom to advanced ticket sales, to use comic book lingo. The sequel, starring Tom Holland and directed by Dustin Daniel Cretton, has posted the best first day pre-sales in 5 years, we hear, and the best overall in 2026. Spider-Man Brand New Day opens on July 31st in the wake of Universal's Christopher Nolan's epic, The Odyssey. The last time we had big pre-sale records was for Spider-Man No Way Home. That movie, before posting the second best opening at the domestic box office ever with a $260 million opening weekend, behind 2019's Avengers Endgame of $357 million. That's a record I don't know if it's ever going to be broken, by the way. Had accumulated an estimated $78 million in pre-sales before its December 17th, 2020 opening date. Spider-Man Brand New Day takes place following the events of No Way Home and yada, yada, yada. All right, so in the midst of that, some outlets like the Indian, from the box office tracking in India, has now put out the first long-range tracking saying that Spider-Man is going to open to 200+ million on its opening weekend in North America, is what they're tracking. Now, I want to put all this into perspective. If Spider-Man Brand New Day does open to over 200 million, and again, having the highest first day pre-sale tickets in the last 5 years is helping its case, then out of the what? 50, 60,000 films ever to be registered on Box Office Mojo with opening weekends, Spider-Man Brand New Day would join the top 10 highest grossing opening weekend box offices in history. Right now at number 10 is the CGI version of The Lion King from 2019. At number 9, Black Panther had a $202 million opening. The Avengers had a $207 million opening. Jurassic World, $208. Deadpool and Wolverine, which we were just talking about, with a $211.4 million opening. Star Wars The Last Jedi with $220. Star Wars The Force Awakens with $248. Avengers Infinity War at $257. Spider-Man No Way Home at $260.1. And then, of course, a record that I don't know is ever going to be broken, Avengers Endgame at $375 million. By the way, if we don't count Spider-Man No Way Home, which is technically a Sony film, technically, 8 of the 10 are Disney films. They're doing all right. They're doing all right. All right. Let's say this thing opens to, like, I don't know, 210. All of a sudden, you're talking about the number 6, number 7 biggest opening in history. For this. Again, after the end of the show, I did an exhaustive search. I looked under the carpets on every shelf. I could not find the comic book movie fatigue that everybody keeps talking about. Couldn't find it anywhere. Mediocre movie fatigue everywhere. Comic book movie fatigue, not to be found. Rob, these are the kinds of numbers that we haven't been able to really discuss or talk about outside of Deadpool and Wolverine for a number of years. And if it can come in at over 200 million, I mean, look, I see some people saying 220, maybe more. I don't know. Maybe much more. Remember, we're still a ways out. We're still more than a month away. They still have a month of marketing and promotion and awareness and all that kind of stuff to do with this movie. So who knows what kind of numbers we're going to be talking about 3 weeks from now, let alone by the time the movie opens. But let's somewhere between 200 and 220 million. I mean, again, it just shattered Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness's first day numbers, and that movie opened to 187 million. So how big could this one be? It's going to be, number one, a great sight to see in the movie theaters. It's going to be a great sight to see. But I'll tell you what else. It bodes very well for a certain movie called Doomsday. If Spider-Man can open to these kinds of numbers, which again, we're still more than a month away. But that trailer that dropped yesterday, which by the way, was the exact same trailer that we had talked about a week earlier that had leaked, only this was a much better version of it, obviously. That trailer was bonkers. That trailer was amazing. And I think there's going to be a lot of people yesterday who maybe didn't wake up at 5:30 in the morning like I did to secure my tickets, who maybe later in the day watched that trailer and said, ooh, I'm going to go get me some tickets for that because that looked great. I can watch Hulk do this all day. I can watch him doing that to anybody all day. And it's nice to have Savage Hulk back, correcting one of the biggest mistakes that the MCU ever made. So, I mean, this all looks good. Rob, you're seeing these numbers. Do you buy these numbers? Do you think these numbers are going to be even remotely accurate? And if so, put this into historical perspective for us here.
Well, I totally buy these numbers. I mean, and in terms of perspective, you know, I would say that the character of Spider-Man kind of, forget what's come in the past in terms of MCU and superhero movies or whatever, comic book movies. I think Spider-Man transcends the origins of being a comic book character. I think Spider-Man is a true pop culture character that originated in the pages of comic books. But everybody loves Spider-Man. Everybody. I mean, look, when I was a kid, Spider-Man was part of the Electric Company. And and then there was the Spider-Man, you know, and Spider-Man is a part of every childhood. I mean, we all Underoos, basically. When you think Underoos, I think Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so Spider-Man is this ubiquitous character. So this does not surprise me at all. And what's wild, dude, is America, or the world's favorite newlyweds, Zendaya and Tom Holland.
Yeah.
They're going to have a hell of a July being in both the Odyssey and in Spider-Man within 2 weeks of each other.
Yeah.
Has any
this
power?
Is they get married, and they're going to be in two of the biggest films of the year together in both of them.
I mean, I think they go to the top of the charts as wielding the most power of any power couple in Hollywood, at least economically, based on what's going to happen in the month of June and July and August, which is incredible. I love that for them. And, you know, I'll tell you something. I saw something really interesting today that popped up on Instagram. It was a Fandango interview with the cast of Spider-Man, probably to promote the sales. And they were interviewing Tom Holland, and he said that this was the first time that he's been involved with the story, like the development of the story.
Yeah.
And he said he went and scoured the internet and was kind of taking his own personal survey about what fans wanted to see in this movie. And he said, he kind of said what you've been talking about. He said everybody wanted Spider-Man to go back to his roots. Now that Tony Stark is gone, there's no Stark tech, you know, and they wanted him to be the story about his own neighborhood and becoming who he's supposed to be, and maybe not save the world, but save himself. And that's what Tom Holland said. And I'm like, What a great idea to have somebody. Tom Holland, the more I see him normal and like not just talking, what a guy, what a great guy that guy seems to be. And this is really, I thought, an astute way to involve your, actors getting involved in the, sometimes that doesn't go very well. A lot of the time it doesn't go very well.
Sure.
But I loved hearing that. I loved hearing him say that this movie is about Spider-Man coming to grips and saving himself. I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, look, this all, by the way, Tom Holland, also in another interview, this is no big news flash, actor saying movie he's in is really good. But Tom Holland did go out of his way to say he thinks this is easily the best Spider-Man movie they've done.
Yeah.
And that's a tall order because I really enjoy all three of John Watts' Spider-Man movies.
I do too.
I think he did a great job, but you're bringing now in Shang-Chi director destined to do this. And I think the level is up there. I think a number of people are going to be really excited. The Punisher's in there. Obviously, idiots like me are really excited that we got Hulk in there. So yeah. And again, biggest first day sales in the last 5 years. And obviously the biggest in the year to date. And now they're projecting over 200 million. Guys, question is for you. How big do you think this thing can go? Do you have your tickets for it anyway? By the way, you don't have to see it opening weekend. You Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there's lots of days you can go see it. But how big of an opening do you think it's going to have? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And all right, guys, with that down, every once in a while, patience pays off. Because we now have the first critic reactions for Supergirl. I have not read these yet. These literally, I mean, as we were talking about the Spider-Man story, it finally landed. We're going to go. Now, to remind you, I did talk a couple of weeks ago, we talked about on the show, to a few people who saw some of the early presentations for it. 2 people really liked it. However, take that with a grain of salt because one of them is attached to the studio. One of the people I talked to was attached to the studio. So him saying something great about their own studio's movie, not something. One thought it was okay. One really liked it. We're going to read these reactions now. This is the first I've read them. They've just come out. So let's go over and take a look here, shall we? Screen Rant's own Ash Corson shared how, quote, I really dug Supergirl. Millie is excellent, and I, too, am a hot mess who locks in for work. The Mary Sue's Rachel Leishman commented on how the film, quote, is everything I wanted it to be. Girls can be messy, and that rules. Kara isn't her cousin, and I really loved how this movie makes that clear. She's a different kind of hero and perfect in every way. Den of Geeks David Crow stated that the DCU installment is, quote, the superhero movie I've missed. A straightforward, poignant story with lots of emotion, especially when we see Kara through little Ruthie's eyes. Luckily, that's every action scene. Millie Alcock absolutely owns the role and will change our idea of Supergirl forever. Multiverse of Colors, Breeze Riley said, celebrated Millie Alcock's solo adventure as, quote, a fun and surprisingly emotional journey that will make you fall in love with Millie Alcock's version of the hero. The film successfully establishes Kara's identity independent of her cousin while still creating continuity and expanding the DCU. Comic Books, Chris Killian, I like Chris, revealed in his thoughts, if you threw Guardians of the Galaxy, True Grit, and Mad Max into a DC blender, you'd get Supergirl. A grimy, funny, yet surprisingly somber space adventure. Millie shines, especially when we get into Kara's tragic backstory. But Jason Momoa is having a fragging time of his life as Lobo. I also want to highlight the practical effects. The design, makeup, and puppetry are all Oscar level good. Krypton looks incredible, and my goodness, does this movie solidify what peak casting David Cornsweet is as Superman. You say that all the time, Rob. Every time he's on screen, you can't help but smile. Junior Felix stated that Kara's 2026 story absolutely, quote-unquote, soars. Millie Alcock is the perfect Kara. This movie is filled with gorgeous set pieces and dazzling action sequences. Momoa is Lobo, but I wanted more of him. The scenes with Clark are priceless. Third act is effing fun. The future is bright with this Supergirl. those are all the first reactions we've gotten from critics so far. Again, the social media thing just lifted today as we were doing the show. This is the first I'm reading these. I gotta say, these are way more positive than I was expecting.
Yeah.
This all sounds really good. Rob, you just heard all these things. What's standing out to you? What are your thoughts?
It sounds promising. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who also saw the film, who works in exhibition, and he said he enjoyed the movie, and he said that he wasn't sure about it the first half, but then there's a flashback sequence that really grabbed him, and the rest of the movie won him over, and he said that Jason Momoa just steals the movie as Lobo. Incredible. But he overall really liked it. Now, listening to these reviews, I love the fact that somebody said it was, more of a straightforward film, that it was poignant and had a lot of heart and things like that. Is kind of what I wanted from this. And just, that clip we talked about, that the picture's up here now, when Superman's getting Kara out of that pod and says, I don't speak Kryptonian. I love that scene. And I want to see the DC universe built out, and they're getting back into the Kryptonian backstory and all that. So I love hearing this, and I'm excited to see this movie, because I really love what little we've seen of Millie Alcock as the character. I think she's great. So I love her line deliveries, and I love the way I just love the way she's playing this character. So looking forward to it, John. I'm looking forward to next week.
By the way, let me address something. It's an over and over idiot refrain I keep hearing. I don't know if I trust the reactions from critics with early access. All critics have early access. Every bad review you've ever read comes from a critic with early access. It doesn't matter. It just get out of here. That's such an idiot assumption. The people who give the worst reviews still get invited to these early access things. Please stop with that. You don't know what you're talking about. So just stop with that. Anyway, that being said, there are some more reactions that have come out here. Mike Ryan, one of the OGs in the online space. Mike Ryan writes, Supergirl is not at all what I was expecting. I too assumed superhero space movie with needle drops would have similar tone to Guardians of the Galaxy or even Superman. Instead, it looks and plays more like a Mad Max movie with dirty worlds, gross villains, and a self-destructive hero.
I'm in.
Hash Croson wrote, I really dug Supergirl. Millie is excellent, and I too am a hot mess that's one we already saw. Peter Gray wrote, Supergirl channels the energy of Gunn's Superman while carving out its own identity. Surprisingly dark themes, Mad Max vibes. We're hearing that from a lot of people. Mad Max vibes and John Wick style motivation drive the story. Millie Alcock shines, and Jason Momoa brings his trademark chaotic charm. Jermaine Lucier writes, Supergirl is highly enjoyable. It doesn't quite have the resonance of Superman, but it acts as both a perfect companion and follow-up to that movie with better characters and more complex relationships. It's also incredibly emotional, which makes the action hit even harder.
Wow.
Mama's Geeky writes, unfortunately, Supergirl is a mixed bag for me. As a fan of the comic, I was perhaps overly excited for the film adaptation. While Jason Momoa's Lobo and Millie Alcock shine, some adaptation choices and a bland villain keep it from greatness. Still, simply put, just fine. Let's see. Michael J. Lee wrote, Supergirl is a messy film, but its strongest moments come when it allows its characters to be vulnerable as they navigate destiny and finding their place. Millie Alcock makes for an awesome Supergirl despite some of the script issues and an uninteresting villain. That's a couple of knocks we've heard on the villain. I'll be honest with you, nothing about the villain, the Yellow Hills, like nothing of the villain in any of the marketing stuff has remotely interested me.
No.
This might be one of those films where hopefully it's a good film, but with a villain you can give or take. So anyway,
he says it still soars.
It still soars. So, I mean, there you have it. Rob, there's a few more. Any of the stuff that we heard in there standing out to you?
No, it just people seem to like it. I mean, I didn't expect this movie to be the greatest thing in the world. I expected it to be a solid sophomore entry into the DC universe. And I like the fact that people seem to think that it's Mad Max in space, and that it's emotional. I'm like, bring it on. That's, we tend to judge all of these movies as if they should all be Infinity War and Endgame. And I'm like, look, if you have a great character study and you have this character of Supergirl who goes on a journey and we feel something for her, I think that means it's a success. So I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it. I'm more looking forward to it now.
Like,
So
I am very hopeful for the film. All right. I'm very hopeful for the film. I always have been. I love the source material it's based on. I think the casting has been inspired. I mean, Gillespie is a great director. Lars and the Real Girl, I, Tanya. His films get Oscars consideration. So I'm excited about that. And while I enjoyed the latest trailer, what they're calling the final trailer, I did like it. I actually quite like I haven't been wowed by the marketing campaign for it. You guys know I said this before. I was not particularly enamored with the CinemaCon presentation we got for it.
no, neither was I.
So again, I want to love every movie I go to see, right? I never go into a movie not wanting to love it. And I want to love Supergirl. I have been a little apprehensive about what my expectations are with it, despite the fact it's got a great director and really good casting and stuff like that. I like it, particularly hearing from Mike in this. I'm getting more and more encouraged by what I'm reading here. So we'll see how this all turns out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I told you about some of the early reactions I got last week, but now we're actually seeing the first batch of critics putting out their reactions for it. One of the big criticisms we're hearing is that kind of a forgettable villain. Hey, listen, there are some great comic book films that have pretty forgettable villains. Always love to have a better villain, but who knows? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show a part of your day. Again, huge special thanks, especially to the thousands of you guys who are in the live chat right now. It's been great reading along with you and some of the funny stuff you've been saying. You probably hear me snicker once in a while Rob's talking. That's usually because of something you guys said in the live chat. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. I want to thank our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
Writer, director, producer extraordinaire, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Off to see a triple feature, John.
Yeah, I'm heading out to see Toy Story myself. My name, of course, is John Campea. Guys, thanks so much for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.